And so he was flying back from a conference in Europe. So he was like over Greenland. So he couldn't be on the show that day. And so I was like, that's all right. We know what we're doing. We know how to run it. So we have it all set up. And then we start, and everything was the way it was supposed to be, except neither of us had actually clicked the like go live button. So like we did the whole intro, we did the intro music and thing. We like introduced our guest, we started talking. And then I was like, why don't I see the clock counting how long oh my God. we aren't actually streaming the show right now. So hey, that happens. Okay, well, hi everybody. Kaya, it's your meeting today because let's be real, like the last 7 days for me have been almost entirely focused on this. And so like,
yes,
the logo, not the coffee. Oh yeah, Stephanie got in. Yay.
Yay, congrats, Stephanie.
At my conference.
And George.
And George is giving 2 talks at my conference, and Kaya is giving 2 talks at my conference. And I will say, and I've said this to Kaya, but I'm going to say it so everyone hears me because it is the truth. I recuse myself from like people who I have a vested interest in or like coworkers. So like George and Kaya did not get 2 talks each because I picked them, even though I am the content chair. Like they actually just got ranked really well by my content team. So it's kind of awesome. Also, Brian Loomis, I don't know who here from outside of the org knows Brian. He's another one of the engineering directors along with George and Gavin and others. And he's giving an architecture workshop, like a full day, like developing the skills it actually takes to be an architect, since being an architect is not the same thing as being a senior developer. And so it's like a, you know, how do you evolve into that if that's a career path you're interested in kind of workshop, which he's done training on historically, so it should be pretty good. So I'm stoked. It's gonna be fun. And that's my life right now. Like that's all day and all night, every day. And yeah, so Kaya.
Sweet. Well, if you were paying attention to, well, you guys have been around, so you guys have heard it come down the pipeline, but actually announced on the community meeting this week that office hours are coming back. So put it together a schedule, gonna release that next week. You'll see in the next, well, before each of the meetings or each of the office hours sessions, you'll see a call for questions, because one of the things that we're planning to do is see questions or field questions from the community. And also, you know, a lot of times we don't have the best turnout on our live stream of the office hour sessions. So we'll like do some pre-canned questions so that way, you know, we'll actually have some things to talk about or get the teams to talk about. We'll be doing mostly the only product that does not plan to participate this time or like this quarter, I guess, is the Automate team, but all the other teams have planned to get started on office hours. And so look out for those question pings on Slack and get your questions ready. So that way you guys can get your questions answered IRL, because you asked and we are delivering. I think that's pretty awesome. We're gonna have those start probably, well, everybody's ready, but I wanna get as much build up as possible, like as much advertisement out there as possible so that we can get as big of an audience as possible. So we're looking to have some social media and stuff go out, and then more direct advertisement in the community meeting. Well, so the Automate team did say that they would revisit the idea in the second PI. So yeah, I'm not sure if everybody saw in the chat, Jeffrey Dinkelmeyer asked will the Automate team participate in future office hour sessions? Answer to that is possibly in future PIs. Right now, they have things to work out as far as planning. So look out for that. In addition to the engineering and product teams being on, one of the things that we all decided, I guess, on this call would be that some of the interested customer success, or not customer success, but customer architects would also participate, which would make it a really great session because a lot of those folks are more practical, and it could, excuse me, a lot of them have been practitioners in the past, or, you know, are still, you know, in the space, and will be able to, oh, it looked like Jeff came back, and will be able to provide a more practical answers to your questions versus, you know, I think what we're looking for is really that from the customer architects, like practical answers to your technical questions, and pipeline things from the product teams, like kind of like roadmap type of stuff, and releases and stuff like that from the engineers. So any suggestions, please feel free to call them out. We're just trying this again. Hopefully we'll get it to a good place where, you know, it's providing value for practitioners, and that's you guys. So definitely call out any suggestions that you all have. Next.
I have a comment on that, and it is 100% possible that you already said all of this because my Zoom was in and out for the last like couple minutes. But so sorry, just stop me if you already said this, people. But in addition to just ideas for how we can curate some questions through our channels, it would be super great if like really everyone on this call helped to promote the idea and encourage people to come and attend the office hours. I mean, obviously for different people, different time zones won't necessarily work, but yes, you already did say all this.
No, I didn't. So go ahead.
Because it's not just personal networks and stuff. It's you know, for people like Stephanie and Lyra, you have clients and customers who you can reach out to who use Chef that we may or may not know directly, and the customer architects and customer success people for sure. Like reach out to your accounts and your people and just let them know their practitioners should join, because you will all have reach into places that Kaya and I just don't. So that would be super awesome. And Lyra's asking about when it is. Do we have specific dates and times set yet?
Nope, that's going to be released next week. The schedule is going to be released next week, but it's going to be on Twitch and YouTube and LinkedIn live. Uh-oh.
What
you thinking, Lyra?
Where else would you like it to be, Lyra?
Oh, no, it's just, I don't know, LinkedIn is
Meh.
But
well,
there's lots of people on it is the thing.
Yeah,
right?
that's fair. That's fair. It's definitely an audience, and it's definitely like an avenue for like publicity. That's not the right word.
I think it's just different types of practitioners and different types of audience members prefer different networks, right? And so it's like,
yeah,
there are some people who at this point have like sworn off Twitter for life, right? And in fact, like I would kind of swear off Twitter for life too if it weren't such an important part of like what I do. And like some people refuse to go there, other people just don't do the Twitch or the Discord thing. Other people love LinkedIn, while some people are like, yeah, that's a little too, you know, suit and tie for me, right? And so I just think it depends on.
Have you seen all of I think is it Gen Zers that are, or is it the even younger generations that are like trolling on LinkedIn?
Oh my gosh.
That's a thing. Like
No.
people are going on to like the really serious posts and like just causing shenanigans. I haven't
Oh,
seen a bunch of evidence of it, but it's a whole thing on the side of the internet that does use Twitch and Discord, making fun of
Right.
the but it's still valid. I feel like there's still a valid audience there. I didn't even know that LinkedIn had a live feature. That's news to me.
I'm sure it'll be great, guys.
It'll be awesome. You
it'll
know,
be awesome.
hey,
It'll at
look,
least be fun.
I don't know what level of moderation tools we have. Like if it's like Twitch, we can just boot people, you know, which is possible, then
Mm.
great. And if we can't, and if it's an issue, then we know and we address
Well,
accordingly, you know.
Let's be real, like, let's just do it, get people there. And if we are popular enough to be the activity of choice for trolling, I think that we win.
That's right. That's right.
True. And what we've noticed in the past with office hour sessions and our live streams that we used to do back in the day, LinkedIn, actually, we got more views on LinkedIn than any other platform. So, I mean, it was weird to me too, but you know, you kind of got to go where the people are, you know. And now I will say this much, LinkedIn, when you schedule something on it, when you schedule like a live, and everybody who follows you that's online or is logged in at that time gets a notification that you're going live, and that might help. You know, folks might just be like, oh, they're going live, let me just go check, you know. So I don't know that the other platforms have, or at least they didn't do that. I'm not sure if it was something that you can configure for other platforms, but I do know that LinkedIn just kind of did it natively.
If you're following a channel on Twitch, like I'm subscribed and followed to like a couple of channels, and whenever they go live, I get a notification. Regardless of whether I think it's scheduled or not, I get a notification that they're live. So
Okay, cool.
but that's just for like Twitch.
Yeah, and I think so once we get our Twitch profile, or you know, our Twitch account built, you know, I mean, we have a Twitch account, but we don't have very many followers because we started it, I guess it was 2021 when we first started our Twitch streams, and then we stopped them. So, you know, like, let me see, we probably have like very few, let's just say very few followers on Twitch. So we're trying to get folks wherever we can get them, and then push them to the to where we want them to go, honestly. Because at least with Restream, we're going to be using another platform this time. We're going to be using StreamYard, because I think we have a corporate account there. But when we were doing the Twitch streams before, we were using Restream, and there's not the best integration with LinkedIn. So the chats didn't come through. So we would tell people, hey, if you want to chat with us, like, watch us on Twitter, or not, excuse me, not Twitter, but watch us on Twitch or YouTube. So that way all of our chats will come through. But we also had the LinkedIn, like I also had to have LinkedIn pulled up generally too, so that I could, you know, see what's happening in LinkedIn and then try to answer on.
Watch for the Gen Z trolls, like, is I think the main reason now.
And we didn't really encounter that, but that might have been something that started up after we kind of nixed our live stream. So we'll see. I mean, that would be interesting. Now, we did get a bunch of trolls on, not a bunch, we had a few on Twitch. That was fun.
Like bots or like actual trolls?
I don't know if they were bots. Like, I don't know if there's actual persons behind the actual keyboard, but we were, you know, they were making comments, and then we took this little game when we used to do our our Twitch streams, and it was kind of like Pictionary, I guess. And somebody would get on and, or every once in a while, we would have folks get on and draw body parts. So that was.
Inappropriate pictograms, yeah.
That's
Yep.
fun. That's great.
That's, it made for a fun stream.
That was a thing for a while early in the pandemic, which I'd forgotten about until just now, right? Like I do a lot of publicly accessible community style Zooms. And that would happen. Like people would just jump into Zoom and just start being obnoxious. I'd be like, and goodbye. And I was amused at first with the whole thing, and then I wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, see, at that time we didn't have anybody watching. So it was
Right.
just like, okay, well, this is happening.
I just want to clarify. I don't remember if it was Gen Z specifically. I just remember it being like, honestly, it could have been millennials. Like, I'll take the fall for that. Like,
I'm firmly
Just
Gen X.
because I just messaged her and I was like, "Rip, I am Gen Z."
Yeah.
no, but I'm pretty sure it's like high school age kids that like are in high school right now, which means I'm pretty sure those aren't Gen Z kids. Like,
What is it? Gen AA? Like what comes after Gen Z?
Alpha,
I don't
Gen
know.
Alpha.
Gen Alpha.
Okay, but like, what is after Alpha?
I
I
assume
guess
Beta?
I guess. I
But
have
I'm
no.
pretty sure they're like, because my son, who is 9, is considered Gen Alpha.
Okay.
I am firmly
Alpha-
Gen X, so like I don't know the difference between like I have no idea. I just don't even know.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm anything after millennial doesn't. Sorry, Stephanie. I'm not even gonna finish that sentence because we love Stephanie.
I'm old enough to remember floppy disks, have used floppy disks, and also a Walkman, and also a car phone.
Yeah. Yep. That's
I've
like
used car phone.
we straddle the fence.
It's definitely like a real
Interesting
It-
fence to straddle.
It's really fun when my son's 11. It's pretty interesting. It's interesting to have conversations with him that go along the lines of, yeah, man, I don't know. Like when I was your age or whatever, when I was in high school, like we didn't all have phones to just like do whatever we like. And his response is, well, then how did you check the internet? It's like, oh, buddy, I have some news for you. It's like-
Woo!
Oh my goodness. I have like vivid memories of the dial-up noise.
oh yeah.
Like,
Yep.
and not because it was a recording. Like,
Or the
Oh, man.
phone number and you get the fax machine.
yeah.
Right.
I used to dial into bulletin boards or stuff like that pre-internet.
I ran a bulletin board.
Oh yeah, nice. I also like to. I have a rotary phone in my kitchen that blows people's minds that aren't old enough to know what a rotary phone is. So
Oh, I
that's
just
nice.
love the
Or why a phone is
tactile.
attached to the wall in the first place.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I do remember phone attached to a wall. I do
Anyone
remember
who
my
watches this
phone-
recording is gonna be like, what on earth is even going on?
right?
Sorry, guys.
Look,
No,
we're
it's
all
great.
off topic, but
It's usually my fault, I'm sure.
fine.
Where even were we?
Well,
Finishing up office hours, so it was like next topic.
Yeah.
well, does anybody else have anything to add to the office hours combo before we?
Is it going to be all of the teams all participating in the same office hour? No, there's slots.
They're gonna be slots. So we're gonna
Okay.
have each
Sweet.
product. So it's gonna be, each product is gonna go monthly, right? So it'll end up being like, each week throughout the month is gonna be a different team.
Okay.
And it'll really, I guess once we have Automate in, it'll be every 5 weeks, 2, 3, 4.
Wasn't it discussed at one
Well-
point wasn't it discussed at one point to have like one that's like a rotating one that for like less frequently needed? Teams, I feel like there was a conversation about that too, because we could do like a broader ecosystem or open source tools kind of one every like quarterly or every couple quarters. I thought there was a discussion there too. Am I making that up? Or were you not part of
Well,
that?
we did talk about having different sessions be about different things. Like for instance, we would have once a quarter have products come in and talk about roadmap stuff, because we don't necessarily need them to talk about roadmap stuff every month.
Right, but like we could even have stuff. I don't think it needs to be in every rotation, but we could have. I don't know. There could be one where we let people come and talk about Test Kitchen or the sous chef. So for that matter, I don't know if Lance wants to do it. Even Sync eventually, if that's the thing that he wants to do, and that's an appropriate thing for us to do, which I believe it is. It's not
I
necessarily.
believe so too.
Yeah, probably.
I just volunteered you, Lance, to do stuff. That doesn't mean you actually have to do it.
I know.
But it might be interesting. I mean, I think it benefits the weekly text meeting that you can provide
Yeah.
updates going on. So
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Cool. So then I will reach out, Lance, as we're making a schedule, and whatever works for you. We're really trying to do this with folks, who, like for instance, automates if they don't have things to talk about. So not really bothering automate right now about because it doesn't make sense to do it if you don't have anything to talk about. So let me know what works. We'll talk. Next, okay. So last time we had a meeting, we talked about our podcasts. And I was very ambitious and had dates slotted for recordings that have passed. And now I'm ready to circle back and try to get things on the schedule to start recording next Friday. If you have volunteered for a spot, please check your email in the next day or so, because I will be reaching out to get some time scheduled for your recordings. And if you have not volunteered yet and you would like to, let me go ahead and send the link.
Real quick, Kaya, I talked about volunteering for one of them, and I mentioned that there's someone from my team, Keith, who I thought would be able to speak to things at a higher technical level than I can. And you said that you would circle back with me if it would be okay to reach out to him about that, because he's in the other he's in the CAC, and you said that you didn't want to step on someone's toes.
Oh, Michelle's toes.
Or the cab. Yeah, so I just think that he would be a great fit for the one that we're talking about with your audit, going through an audit, because I'm going through it right now, but I think that he's been through it for many moons. So
Yep.
is this Keith Walters or Waters?
Walters.
Yeah. I don't think it steps on any toes. I mean, he can participate in the cab and still participate in the community stuff and the podcast. I wouldn't think there's a conflict. I don't know.
Cool. Well, you know how sometimes folks are, but but
Just let Michelle know. I don't think.
Yeah, we'll just tell Michelle.
I
yeah,
really don't think so.
She's also lovely. I feel like she'll be
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Michelle's awesome. But you know how it is. It's just there's a real thing here where folks, So I don't think it'll be a problem, but yeah, let me just let Michelle know. Good job. That was a good call out. And I'm actually gonna just ping her now before I forget, because no, wait, let me put the the link in the description or in the chat real quick, just in case anybody wants to look at it and add their own either suggestions or volunteer for another episode. But yeah, we're going to start recording those next Friday, and I would like to record them like in a 2-day span, maybe like next Friday and the following Monday. But like I said before, I'm flexible. And then from there, we'll figure out when they're gonna be released. All right. Michelle's offline now, but I'm gonna ping her real quick. Keith. What's Keith's last name again?
Walters.
Walters, okay. Cool. Thanks, Lyra. All right, what's next on that? Does anybody else have anything to talk about where the podcast is concerned before we switch to the next agenda topic?
So just so I'm clear, you're basically next Friday is when you want me to jump on, or you're gonna record them out of whatever order.
Yes, so
And that's supposed to be Phil and I coordinating schedules. Are you trying to coordinate schedules, or do Phil and I need to coordinate schedules?
I'm gonna coordinate schedules.
Okay.
And see, what works for everybody.
Fridays are generally fantastic.
Okay,
Fridays are the easiest of the things for me to do because the teams in India are long gone before you'd want to sit on and record.
sweet. Okay, that works. That's what I figured. Fridays would probably be best for folks because
You do get slightly brain dead George on Friday though, because it's by the end of a week of stuff, but that's okay. It's it'll be fine. That's if you're looking to coordinate schedules, Fridays are always easy.
Sweet. Is there anybody that off the top of their head could not do next Friday? And if so, like, let's just, raise a hand and we can just link offline and figure out what could work. Because I'm kind of trying to like block off a day and get as many of them recorded as possible. Block off a couple of days. Cool. Oh, happy birthday. It's also your happy birthday. Look,
So look at
3
all these March
birthdays
9th
today.
birthdays. It's wonderful.
That is awesome. Okay. Next, I found out recently when just going over some Slack messages that we have a community blog. I guess wanted to get some information about it. It looks like it's a sync blog or something. Lance, do you know about that? I mean,
Say that again? What about what?
Is it the sync blog?
That's just on our website. We generally just post updates and it's been a long time.
Okay, so like I think we have been talking about a community blog for at least in the first session that we had, we talked about a community blog. And when I learned that we actually had that.
Where is that you have learned we have? Where do we see it?
I saw it in Slack. Let me find that. Lance, do you happen to have the link for it?
Is it the same as the sync blog, or is it a different thing?
It's the sync blog. Because it was in one of the
Which channel?
threads. Let's see.
Also, Kaya, I sent you Keith's Slack at.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
in Slack so that you can,
Thank
can't
you.
speak to whether he'll be on and see it, but at bare minimum, you'll be able to find his profile.
Awesome. Okay. Is it on GitLab?
It's just, if you just go to sync.sh and then click blog, but it's just basically like, we have like 5 posts. I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have like an active blog of any kind.
Okay, so Tens by and some other community members were talking about it in the community distros page, or the community distros channel. I think it was like 8 days ago, so.
Let's see here. Let's
So
see
we
here.
have a category on our existing blog called community.
On the chef.io blog,
Yeah,
we don't use it.
you were the last person to post in there in January 2020, 28th of 2022. So
Okay, so I wonder, can we get community members to like get guest posts?
we have done joint guest posts in the past. I don't know what the process is, but we have done that.
I like wrote up a blog post and sent it over, and then Kaya, you might have been the one I was working with, but like it just got like formatted into something else and put on the blog.
But then we publish it under your name and byline, right? Like, that's the thing.
No,
is-
it was
we
like a
got
chef thing. I mean, it was just like about my talk. It was just like the technical details.
So there
Oh,
are
was that
historically-
during ChefConf?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess a little bit after because people were asking for more info.
Oh,
A couple months after.
See, what
Alright,
I'd,
so
what I'd
here's
like
an-
to do,
Here's an old one from, it was just the first person I could think of. I searched for Phil and I picked his first post. So Phil has had posts on our blog before.
he probably has direct commit rights, though.
Not well, not to whatever this is. This is a, I don't even know how, I don't even know how to post a blog post.
and we have to go through, I think it might be Vishnupriya.
Because this is not on community.chef.io. This is on the parent site, right?
It is on
Right,
the parent site, but they are in the community tagged section of that, you know, the subdivided
Yeah.
by whatever those tags are.
So we got to talk to, I need to talk to Michelle then, though, because I know there's a lot going on with the Chef.io websites, the community one and maybe also the flagship one in terms of moving and slowly working toward decommissioning, because that's, I mean, Progress Corporate wants to start moving that direction.
oh, to the corporate.
There's been a lot of push that like they want to decommission community.chef.io and make it all go to community.progress.com with a chef subsection. And so if that's happening, we just make sure, we need to make sure that we somehow preserve the historical blog then, if that's on this
Well,
parent.
it's on the, I mean, it's on the chef.io site now, the blog, so, yeah.
Right.
I
I just
don't
wanna
think
make
our
sure that-
community sub-site has anything like
Mm-mm.
that.
So,
But I would like to be able to, and we have to figure out what the process is, and I may. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that too, Stephanie. So it may have to involve not only going through, you know, marketing or Vishnupriya, but it also probably requires going through legal in some fashion because of intellectual property stuff. In terms of getting an approved process down. I know I've had to do that at other companies before, but I would like to be able to actually amplify community members' voices, right? Like,
mhm.
I want to be able to go to Stephanie or to Lance or to Brittany or to Phil or whomever and be like, hey, you know, write me what do you want to write about, and give us a blog and we can just publish it directly. Now we're amplifying our partners' voices, our customers' voices, our community members' voices. I want to be able to do that.
Right,
But
like, so, yeah, so
and Progress does, like Telerik does that, because I've written an article for Telerik before, so I know that we can do it. Like, I know that Progress will allow it, because I've done it for other parts of the company
okay,
before I worked here. So it's a possibility. I just don't know what is required.
Sweet. So that's one of the other things I want to look into then, because well, I was wondering if the sync blog was a viable option. But like if
Our blog is kind of more focused on the status of the project itself. I mean,
gotcha.
it's not really a general community thing.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I don't see why we couldn't, but that's just not how it's been, so.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that was just something that came up and I was like, okay, let's talk about this because I wanted to get more information on it. And so it looks like, I mean, I guess we can figure out what the best bet is. We got a lot of things in the pipeline, but if we've got folks that do want to like start contributing as far as like blog posts and stuff like that, let's get the conversation moving so that way we can figure out what the best bet is as far as where we're going to publish, because there might be some red tape. I mean, I don't see that it's nothing that like we can't figure out, like, but you know, if we've got folks that are itching to get blog posts done or published, like ping me in, and then that'll be like the fuel that makes it a priority to get this whole thing figured out. Lastly, I guess Jeff, you could talk about the pre-approval for sponsor events and also the community summit.
Okay, so here's one thing I'm learning and I learn more and more as every week goes by, is just like things sometimes move slowly around here. Sometimes reasonably slowly, sometimes painfully slowly, but they move along, just not as fast as anyone, or at least as fast as I would like them to. So let's talk the summit first, because that's already a topic that we've discussed before. So I think I shared, because it had all just happened right around the time we had our last meeting last month, where things got a little weird for a bit, and we were trying to make sense of some stuff because there was confusion and misalignment between like what we were trying to do from the community side, the product marketing side, the sales side, how we collaborate and have like a product marketing PMK style event alongside a community or practitioner centric event. And so it took some realigning to make sure everyone understood like what was going on. And then by the time we were done with that, the person who, the VP who controls the budget, she's part of the demand gen and field marketing on the corporate side, but she has the money, she's the one who's funding the events. We had another meeting. She goes, well, there's no way we can do this in Q2 now. I'm like, well, no, not now. There's probably not. So we're still doing them. Yes, Stephanie's still Seattle. And in Q3 instead of Q2. So we moved them to the fall, which actually is easier for me and less stressful for me, although I'm kind of disappointed because I was eager to get them going. We do have dates that we are now 80 to 90% certain on. The US, the one in Seattle would be first. Now I'm gonna, rather than me make it up, let me actually pull up, I'm on the wrong machine now. Do you know off the top of your head? Do you remember, Kaya? It's late September. Let's see.
Let me pull up my calendar because I know we blocked it off. Let's see.
Just like to stick myself in the middle of not my business.
Yeah.
That would be like also Chef Conf then?
Yeah,
So-
25th to the 27th of September.
25th to the 27th. All right. Oh, right. So yeah, in that week. So yes. Yeah. Here's.
I just want to make sure I'm tracking. I'm not trying to like call any, like I'm just.
Oh no. It's. You remember the old Facebook, like it's complicated relationship status? Like that's kind of where we're at with like how we think through these different events and like how they're all tied to each other. So there's not going to be a distinct independent, like single global chef conf this year. We talked about this a little bit in the past too, and I've heard the feedback from several people in this committee and internally in our community guild internally around concern about how we brand things. Because I know there's some concern about like if we call anything we do right now at Chef Conf, that means something to people. Like people who've been around, they hear those words and they have an expectation for scale and scope and like what that means. And we are not going to be delivering a Chef Conf anything like what a 2018 and before Chef Conf would have looked like. But there's a very strong feeling inside the marketing side of the organization that with these need to be Chef Conf, and that we have to have continuity of brand, and that we have to call them Chef Conf. That's very important to them. I've expressed the concern. It could still change, but right now they basically are like a Chef Conf hits the road, like regional thing, right? Where we have smaller Chef Confs regionally. So we have one, I see the look on your face, Lyra. I get it. I hear it. I know it's strange, but like, so basically there's like a Chef Conf for EMEA, and there's a Chef Conf for the US, or maybe two of them, like a Western and Eastern US. So they're not going to be the big 2,000 plus person events, at least not right now. They're going to be more like 400 or 500 people. But what they want to do is have basically our community side of it, and then a product marketing side or a product roadshow side. It, in some respects, it almost looks like a scaled down version of what Chef Conf used to be. I'm actually trying internally, I'm trying to get away from talking about it as being like the community summit or community side of our event. And I'm talking about it more as the technical and practitioner half of our event, as opposed to the like executive and leadership half of this event. Because in doing that, I think that the PMK and budgeting and sales part of the organization that controls what we are and aren't able to do, I think they understand that better, like it resonates with them more. So like what we've been calling our community summit would still largely be the same thing. We'll have a technical track of sessions that are a technical deep dive of roadmap and what's going on, and having some more technically focused content around where we are and where we think we're headed. And we'll have open spaces just like we were planning on having in this, you know, for half a day, just like you would see it at DevOps Days. And we'll still have a second day that has the sort of self-organizing hackathon. So we'll have that, but it's going to be like, that's like the practitioner half of an event that will also have product and salesy focused things happening at the same venue. And so they want to call that a Chef Conf. I mean, and whether that's a good idea or a bad idea or neutral, everyone has a different opinion on that. So I don't, you know, I'm open to the feedback on that, because every time I get feedback on that from this group or internally, I share it back with PMK and with demand gen and field marketing. I mean, I tell them the feedback. So I'm happy to hear it. And we're recording this. So it's not just hearsay if necessary. But anyway, the point is, it'll be that kind of last week of September in Seattle. And then it's like 3 weeks later in Europe. So it wasn't be like mid to late October, but that gets really near heading into the last month of our fiscal, because our fiscal year ends November 30. And so for the product focused side of that event, the sales and customer side of the organization was concerned about getting that late in the year. So they asked us to move it up a week or two. So it's going to be, again, do you have the dates blocked? Because I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong machine now, Kaya.
Yes,
But the dates
the
will be
10th,
Europe.
well, the 11th through the 13th.
All right, so it was 12th and 13th. The 9th is my sister's 40th birthday. So I told them I would not get on a plane any sooner than the 10th to Europe. So I'd be flying on the 10th. So, right, the event, and I'd be getting acclimated, helping set up on the 11th. The event would be the 12th and 13th of October. And right now it's back on the table whether we're going to do it in Frankfurt or London because of time of year and because of the sort of events team for Progress and for our BU are pricing things out and looking at venues right now. So I have a meeting every Friday. We have a weekly cadence that is me, Michelle Seebeck, who we were talking about before, and I think most of you know Michelle. Me, Michelle, Mark Traster, who is Michelle's boss. He's the VP for product marketing for Chef and for our BU. Leah DiPolo, who runs events corporate wide, and Dee Sarsfield, who is the person with the budget for me, who is the VP over demand gen and field marketing. So we have a weekly cadence talking about these things, and Dee has members of the events staff and her staff looking at venues and starting to price things out to make sure that we don't run into a major issue. 11th to 14th is for the European event, Lyra. So that's the one in Europe. And then the 26th, 27th, or whatever of September is the one that would be in Seattle. And then what we're hoping is that these are successful, and then we start to schedule more next year. I still would like to do one in 2024 in Denver. I think we have a good market there. I know, Lyra, you were there, but I also know that we have customers there. I'd love to do one there. We discussed San Francisco, but it's such an expensive place to hold things. Not that Seattle's that much cheaper. And we're going to look at other regions too. Like I want to do one APJ also. So, but that's all in 24 and beyond. So they're happening, but they're not in the immediate term is the real answer to your question. We're playing Jeopardy. The real answer to your question, Stephanie, but we've got the dates and now we're doing is working on the venue. The goal and what we agreed on as our steering committee is that by second week of March, so which really we meant like by next Friday, we're supposed to agree enough that we are ready to go live or start putting together like a splash landing page so we can start promoting and at least publicly announce the events. We won't necessarily be taking registration yet because we probably have to verify like hotels and things because people want to start booking and we won't necessarily have hotels under contract yet. But before the end of this month, we will be like actually officially announcing these beyond the four walls of like this committee and internal. So that is where that stands. And once that happens, the goal is to go all out, like, just like I was saying with the office hours, kind of bring it back to where we were started this meeting. You know, partners like Tap here and others reaching out to your customer base, especially if you have anyone close to the region at all, like Pacific Northwest customers, you may not have any, but like some of our partners will, and our
Customers.
You what?
We have Hawaii customers.
Well, if they want to fly to Seattle, or we could host one in Maui. You know,
There you go. That is the answer.
right? Which also seems reasonable. We'll kind of do like the Road to Hana as kind of a community building event, and then go up and watch the sunrise on Haleakala, and then like do a whole thing. It'd be great. I think that's what we should do. I'll put that on the roadmap for 24 and see whether it gets approved. There is an outstanding Caribbean Developers Conference. I mentioned that at one point to Dee Sarsfield, who actually goes, "Stop, you don't get to go to the Caribbean." I was like, "No, I'm serious with the conference." She didn't believe me, so I had to show her the website, like a big conference in Punta Cana. So these things happen.
What is this called?
The Caribbean Developers Conference. Yep, it's in Punta Cana. It's I was once on the steering committee for a conference in Antarctica. These things do happen.
That's not as attractive.
No, it was if you wanted to, like, you know, do a cool thing and see penguins and see the Antarctic continent, which, you know, it's kind of neat. It required a giant commitment of time and money, but like people did it. There was a thing, it happened. Anyhow.
Okay, but like fur seals though.
Hmm?
Fur seals?
I don't know if there were fur seals. There probably were. There were lots of penguins. I didn't go because it would have been me going for like 3 weeks. I like helped them plan it, but it was like,
Okay.
you know, $14,000 and you got to fly to Argentina, and it's like a 3-week cruise down to Argentina, Antarctica, and around like is that Cape Horn, Cape of Good Hope, whichever one's at the southern tip of South America, like through the Falklands and around and then back up to Chile. Like it was a commitment.
Wow.
And we've gone off topic again, but like I get excited about running interesting events. So yes, Maui 2024.
I would go to that.
This is being recorded, so.
That's right. So it's official now.
Yeah, now you're committed to it. There's no
Right.
backing out.
I wouldn't, since I don't control the budget, it's not, it wouldn't be me who's backing out. So all is well. So yes. I don't know what else I can tell you all about the summits. But if we launch that site, the site will be live, like with information before the next time we all get together, or it better be, or I'm going to be like unpleasant toward people. So like it'll be up there. So then there'll be things to talk about between now and then we're on the next, when we have our next meeting. The other things, I know I only have a few minutes. Thanks, George. See you, man. Not thanks for the happy birthday, but thanks for you're gone. So we are going to also start something I got approved that is my budget, because it doesn't cost nearly as much as running a full conference, is we're going to start sponsoring a couple of things here and there again and have Chef actually be physically present at some community and practitioner-centric events. It's not going to be a ton. We're starting light to see how it goes because it's been a long time since Chef has done this. We're looking at a couple of options for Q2. I think we're going to sponsor DevOps Days in Raleigh-Durham because we have a decent amount of presence in the Triangle. I also went to school there, so I want to go back and hang out. But I think that's in what, like April 13th or 14th. We're looking at doing the one in Austin, which is May 5th, 6th, or 4th and 5th. The issue there is that they're actually sold out for sponsorships, and we're trying to throw this together because I just got approval from my leadership to spend our dollars as opposed to having to go through corporate dollars to do it. But I'm friends with the person, one of the main people who runs the one in Austin, so she's trying to see what she can do, so we may be able to pull that off. Another option, although scheduling was difficult, is there's one in Denver coming up really soon, Lyra. There's a DevOps Days in Denver. I don't know whether I'll be able to pull off sponsorship of it or not, but it's an option, especially if we can't get Austin. But it's also in April, so it'd be a lot of stuff going on in April. Because I also have to go to Redmond in April for the Microsoft MVP Summit. So it'd be a question of whether Kaya or anyone else on our team can go and support it. We do have someone in the customer team in Denver, but we need to have probably 2 or 3 people to go. But it'd be nice to have a presence in all 3 of them. So those are coming up. And our goal right now is to just kind of get Chef's feet wet again, in these community events, smaller community events, get our name back out there a little bit, try some go-to-market stuff where we talk about not only Chef, but like the InfraVU in general, and then talk about, help educate people, honestly, that Chef is still around as a going concern, let them know about the community. A lot of times, even if they see progress, they don't recognize the brand. A lot of the transition to the Progress Chef brand happened during the pandemic and everything else. So we're just trying to get back out there and see if we can get some new people engaged and interested in the community side of things. And if they're successful, then we do more of them. And I have something to go by to actually ask for more money, which would be great. Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed that it's supposed to be like a 2-day event. So is it going to be like you're having the 2 sides of this, like the technical and the product side, happening at the same time? Like, do we have to choose? Because I think there are some like more executive, more product things that like I feel like I could vibe with, but I also want to get in the nitty-gritty with the technical.
Yep. Good question. We have
Yeah, I would definitely want to have that split.
Right. We have talked about that. It's an ongoing discussion we're having because it is a complex thing to navigate. Because you're right. Like what's interesting is, one thing that the others on the steering committee keep saying is, all right, so Jeff is going for like maybe 100 people at his community part, and then we're shooting for 250 or something at our like Chef at the Chef Conf part. And I finally said to them last week, I was like, that's fine, but like, I think you're going to find that if you really think you're getting 250 people at a regional Chef Conf, a lot of those people might actually be interested in what we're calling the community part, because it's really just like the technical portion of our agenda. And I said the same thing. We're going to have some people who want to be there for the open spaces and want to be there for the hackathon, but are also going to want to sit in on some roadmappy things. So I agree that it's not as clean cut as you'd expect. Now, they will happen simultaneously. So for people who maybe really just aren't interested in the executive half of it and just want to be there for the community and the technical stuff, like that'll all be happening throughout. So like, but yes, they happen at the same time. So it might be kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit. Like, hey, if there's a session, but it's all been in one venue, right? So like if it's, hey, you know what, like the next hour, someone's talking about this thing on this leadership side, and I'm going to go check that out. So you decide to spend 30 minutes or an hour and hop over to the leadership half, like the leadership track, as opposed to the technical or practitioner track of the event. You just go over and watch that. It's more like just going to a conference with different tracks. So head out, watch that thing, and then come back and join some open spaces. For our part of it, I don't want to be exclusionary at all, right? So if people want to participate in some or all of what we're doing, you want to come to like, you want to go and see the leadership side or the product side of the sessions, but then just pop in and join open spaces for the afternoon and do the hackathon the next day, whatever, great. Like come and go, participate where you can. I mean, the complicated part of that isn't just because of people wanting to do different things. It's also because, like, from my perspective, I want it to be a very low barrier to entry, very low cost ticket. Like, it's not gonna be free. Because we've talked about this before, I think, in this group. Like, if I make it free to register, then people will just register, and like, it really does cost us a decent amount of money. Like, we're budgeting about 100 grand a piece to run these two events, which is probably on the low side of what it needs to cost, but that's what we have available. And I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that outside of, but I did, so there we go. And so what we don't want is people registering for a thing and then having mass amounts of attrition when that morning they just be like, I've got meetings today, I guess I just won't go. Because we're committed to spending the money to run things, so people register, we want them to come. But I'm trying to keep the cost low because I want community people to be able to make it and not have like a very expensive ticket. And yet on the other side of things, like from the chef comp half, the product bigger side where they're talking, $300-$400 ticket and they think that's actually a little too cheap. And I'm like, well, I don't know that all the community people want to pay $300, $400, $500 to come, especially if they don't have corporate backing to participate. So I think what we're going to end up doing it, but we can't have two different price tickets because I also want it to be able to be like, if you come for our thing, but you, like you're saying, Stephanie, you want to go and check out part of the other side. Like, I want it to be a single pass where you can freely flow and do whatever it is you want to do while you're there. So what I think is more likely, and so far the rest of the steering committee has been amenable to internally, is that we have a single price or whatever it is, or we'll have tiered pricing for tickets, early bird and whatever, but we have a single ticket price at any point in time. But I'm just going to have access to discounts and all sorts of things so that if like those people who are really community focused people, they get directed to me and I make sure that they're not blocked from coming because of cost. And I just sort of take care of it. That's kind of, I think, what the plan is going to be as of right now, which is more for me to manage, but I don't really care. Like, if it enables people, it enables people. That was a really long-winded answer to your question because your question really touches on like a lot of different things. I do think, so one thing that they're pushing, and I got them to take one step back on it, and I think it's okay, is originally the plan was, the first morning will be the keynotes and nothing else happens while the keynotes are going on. And then the community can go do community things starting in the afternoon of day one. And I was like, no, I don't think I want to give I'm not going to have people come for a community summit and then put them in like 2.5 hours of keynotes, which was like the original calendar proposed. So instead, right. I really enjoy just like watching Lyra during these conversations. It makes me, it's great. You're like me, you wear your emotions like on your face, which is great because I do it too. So there is going to be one for everyone at the start of day one, but the idea that I got everyone to agree to for now is it's more like a 30 to 45 minute opening. And it'll either be Sundar, who is our GM, who runs the entire chef and infrastructure management BU for the company. Like, he's all of our bosses. He reports straight to Yogesh, in case anyone doesn't know Sundar. So it's either gonna be Sundar or someone in kind of an executive role, giving a welcoming, talking more about why he's glad everyone's back together and what to expect over the next couple of days, and a general 50,000 foot like state of DevOps and state of chef and state of infra kind of thing. And then if they choose to have more keynote types of things after that, we will still move over and immediately begin our technical and practitioner community breakout stuff right after it. So we'll have it all day. That's all. I mean, there's more, but like, those are the words because I'm 7 after now. Questions about any of that? Like, I know that's a lot, and and every month I have slightly different answers for you all because it is a moving target as we figure out what this needs to look like, and as we all learn to work together with each other internally, right? Like, there's a lot going on because between the realignment, new people coming over from different business unit to join us, the fact that like Progress Corporate has never really run a community event for Chef because we haven't really done any in-person community events for Chef since the acquisition. So there's a lot of us learning what that looks like in the current state of the world. So it's just been a moving target, which is not cause for concern. It just means that there's a lot for us to figure out and do, because we want to get it right, or at least as right as we can get it for iteration 1. We won't get it right because no one ever gets anything right on iteration 1, but the closer we can get it. feedback, thoughts, concerns, hatred, vitriol, what you got?
We'll see how it plays out. I'll stay optimistic for now.
If you're not feeling optimistic, like I need to, I mean, I need to know, if you don't want to talk about it
No,
here, like we can chat offline, but like I want that feedback because it's
No, I
important.
feel like that was a good way to approach it, like to try to keep it all together and like make it flexible and make it something that, you know, we can get more backing behind from corporate. But I'm a little worried that if it's just 2 days and it's like all of that stuff, I imagine people are gonna be like dead, which may be like really fun and like half the fun of it, you know. So just excited to see, because it just seems like a lot to pack in.
Reserve judgment for how you feel and how you observe me on the 23rd of June when we get to PubConf at the end of KCDC. Like, dead doesn't even begin to describe it. That's just kind of how it is. There was one year where I actually ended up curled up, like sleeping on the floor in the corner of the bar where we were hosting PubConf the last night of KCDC. It was something. The next year, the organizer of PubConf, which is a whole, we'll discuss another time, but you should plan on staying in Kansas City and going to it. He had a custom bar for cocktails because we were holding it at in the tap room of this local distillery. And one of the drinks was called Jeff Just Needs to Lie Down. That was the name of one of the drinks on the bar. So
We need a recipe for that drink.
I can probably still get it. Yep.
That's great.
Needs to lie down. This year, what we were thinking about doing, and we really might do it because we're moving the venue. We've moved completely off Chef. Now I'm just talking about KCDC. So you all can hang up on me if you want. That's cool. But like, we're moving for the first time in several years our speaker dinner to a new venue. And it's kind of a cool, hip sort of place on the south end of downtown. It has like a speakeasy in the lower level and like other stuff upstairs. But but it's bring your own catering and bring your own, it's a BYOB place. Like they don't actually, they will serve your drinks and they have bartenders, but you provide. And so what we think we're going to do is we're going to create a custom menu, and all 7 of us, like the 3 of us on the board and the other 4 main members of the organizing team, are going to come up with our own beverages, like our own cocktails. And when you go to the bar, like you order I'll have the Strauss, right? Or like I'm going to order, I'll have one of the Nathans, please. So like there'll be a drink per organizer. And then my son, who's 11 and is a really accomplished mixologist, which I think I should be worried about. He creates his own mocktails, and he's really quite good at it, is going to invent a mocktail so that for people who prefer non-alcoholic beverages, they can order the Keller. Like, we're going to do like a whole thing. It's gonna be great.
Cute.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. All right. So yes, thank you for staying optimistic, Stephanie. But like, let's talk. Like, I do want to talk through that. We're not going to get it to more than 2 days. Michelle wanted it to be a 3-day event, and that got shut down very quickly. Like the budget, frankly, just isn't there right now. I mean, and this is all sort of experimental for us. And so there's, I think, a lot of, we're hedging our bets a little bit. We need to figure out what works and what doesn't. If it's wildly successful, or if we sell this thing out and there's people waiting, at the door and wish they could come, then that gives us a lot of firepower to go on and say, for 2024, we need to have 3 or 4 of these things spread throughout the year. And we need to allocate more money to them because it was successful, and they need to be bigger, and we can kind of grow back into that. But I mean, but to some extent, honestly, like Progress tends to be a conservative place when it comes to making these kinds of decisions, which isn't necessarily the wrong approach, right? Like, it's better to not overextend ourselves and then have massive failure. Like we tend to be a little more measured. At least that's been my experience in the first, 9 months or so.
So
But they're,
is that,
yeah, go on.
oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I so far, even though things have moved very slowly, like in these 9 months, like I came into a situation that's obviously been challenging, and like I really haven't just been told no to anything. Sometimes I've been told like we need to scale things back or we need to move into it slowly, but I really haven't been told no by anybody. So to me, like, and I think that part of that is because we take a little more scaled back approach, and I'm, even though it can be painful for me, like I'm willing to meet them in the middle, the rest of the organization where they are in terms of like taking that measured approach. And because I'm willing to negotiate things in that way, like no one's telling me I can't do stuff. And So like, I'm willing to live that, I'm willing to ride that road. What were you gonna say, Lara? Sorry.
I was gonna ask about that's all in reference to like the community summit or to what they're calling Chef Conf.
Yes, it's the truth is at this point, it's kind of all one and the same.
Okay.
Right? Like what it really is at this point is whether it's going to be Chef Conf in some fashion. I would love to have it like be Chef Conf adjacent and like let it have a new branding that stands on its own that like ties back to the Chef Conf brand, but also recognizes that it's like something new and something that is not like a global event. Because like Chef Conf historically was a global event that had, a lot more happening. But whatever we call it, it is a collective event that is going to be what we had been terming the community summit, combined with what like field marketing has previously called their product road shows, and a little bit of like executive leadership summit style stuff. Like there's going to be a cab, for example. Now, Michelle may not do it if we move the European one. Like if we move that to London, there won't be a cab in the European one because she has a cab scheduled for like the end of this month in London. So she doesn't need to have one, but there will be a cab, I think, tied to the one in Seattle. It's like we're trying to put all those things together. And while that does create some anxiety and some like, well, gosh, what's this going to look like? There's a part of me that actually thinks it's really good because I mean, that's really what Chef Conf was everyone coming together like from all sides of the community and the ecosystem, like being able to, thanks Joshua, being able to have everyone together, like there is benefit. That was Jeff Mary's comment to me when I had a one-on-one with him last week. And he's like, well, that's actually kind of great because, and I don't know if the two of you from TAP here know Jeff Mary or not, but he's like the head, he's a VP. He came from Chef before the acquisition and he's the VP of customer success. So whoever your like customer success reps are, like they all roll up to Jeff. So I had a one-on-one with him and his comment was, well, this is actually great because it's actually good for like, if we bring in some leadership type folks and executive type folks who come to participate with us on that level, and they still see there's also 100, 150, whatever it is, people who are practitioners, community people who want to come and do that. And they see that, like, that's a win. That's a good thing. That shows the leaders that there are still active practitioners who want to come together. And if the practitioners still see that Chef is investing in like growing and are willing to do a thing that's more than just sticking us in a room and like, here's some laptops, go to a hackathon, but are trying to build up an in-person event, especially after last year's Chef Conf that sort of, was confusing, let's say, about like how that all went down. There's a giant woodchuck that like just is sitting, it just ran away again, sitting right next to the window. Sorry. So if I keep looking over there, he's back. He lives under my bay window here, but I hadn't seen him like all spring. We named him Woody Kachuk, like because Keith Kachuk was like a star hockey player for the Blues for a long time. Anyway,
Is it chill if I start spreading rumors about Chef Conf?
yeah.
Okay.
I can't control what you do. You don't work for me. So
I
like,
usually frame it as like a hot secret. I'm like, oh, I got some tea for you.
it's yeah, I'd be very vague about it. Only because the details themselves are in flux. And so like, I don't want you to start some rumors that turn out to just be completely wrong. Not that we won't do the thing, but like, so I wouldn't dive too much into like structure because like that keeps changing, but like starting to spread some rumors about like, hey, there's gonna be a thing in person and like people are getting together and I'm just hearing like, this might be some, yeah.
And they're definitely going to be handing out free iPads.
Oh yeah, I mean, totally. That's you would have to discuss that with field marketing. I can't speak to that.
Well, that's the last question I had. Other than that, I'm gonna pull chalks because I have planned to meet up with a bud and go to all of the stores and get free birthday things. So
do that.
I'm gonna go do that. But see you guys.
Bye, Steph.
Bye.
I did have a
Happy
question
birthday.
Happy birthday, Steph. I did have a question about the like splitting stuff and like having like multiple either throughout the year or like in different places.
Uh-huh.
I think you made a comment about that leadership was like wanting to do I don't know if it was leadership, if it was the community summit or like trying to have more, or like splitting. There was something about like how you were
That
like,
was-
oh, Chef Comp's not gonna look how it's
Oh, yeah,
always
yeah, yeah,
looked.
yeah. So that was that. Well, so that all originated actually with me and with like this group. It might have been before you had joined us a few months back, but like, the idea was, and I think it even goes back to the fall. Now, will we eventually maybe also have like a whole global thing where everyone's invited again? Maybe.
But you kind of have to prove to the
Well,
higher ups that it's going to be worth the investment.
well, I think there's two, that's part of it, because it's very expensive to do. Part of it is also, like Chef isn't just Chef anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
even, it's not even, I don't even just mean the whole progress thing. I mean, even our business unit, Chef already, like, the infra BU does already have, as of December 1, like the products that we acquired, from Kemp. So we have Loadmaster and Flowmon, and now in our infra business unit, we have our What's Up Gold product that came over from a different business unit of Progress. So our BU, just like the other two BUs in Progress, will continue to expand. Like, Progress is still in large part an acquisitions company, right? Like, we will acquire other companies and technologies over time, and they'll also be in our BU. And so from a Progress standpoint, having one big global thing, is that one big global thing for Chef? Is that one big global thing for infrastructure management? Is that one big global thing like the Progress 360 thing? Like, what does that look like and how and why? And so I think and I don't think we know the answers for that. But also, the idea behind splitting it wasn't because we're trying to split people up. It's because, like, frankly, not a lot of people come from Singapore or India or Japan or wherever, or Australia, to come to an event in Boston. And so from a community standpoint, and be able to be with our practitioners again, I'd like to be able to have an event for our community and have Jason Field be there, but he's in Singapore or Hong Kong, I think. Like, is he going to really get on a plane and fly to Boston or to Seattle? I don't know. So, I want our people from TechRacer and other key partners over in Europe to be able to come to events. And I don't necessarily want to ask them to fly to the United States every time. And so the idea is also to be able to say, we'll go to where you are. And so it really started before we knew there was going to be a larger combined Chef Conf or Chef Conf Junior type thing. The idea really was, that I wanted there to be community summit style opportunities quarterly, moving between our regions, right? So we have our US, our North America region, we have our EMEA region for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and we have our APJ region. And I want to be able to have events in all those places because I want to support those communities. Because can our major customers and partners fly people out? Sure. But for people who are at smaller shops who just want to get a chance to meet like-minded people, their opportunity to do that is going to be if we host an event in Frankfurt or London, if they're in Prague or Poland or Romania, or like, it's gonna be easier for them to come to Germany. So that's why we're doing it.
Oh, that part makes sense. The part
Yeah.
that I was kind of iffy on was like the East versus West Coast of US. Like,
Yeah.
'cause, I mean, like, I
may
get
not
it.
do that. We may not do it that way, long term. We
But
may
like,
not.
hear me out. The middle of the US.
I live in Missouri.
Okay, but like, we
No.
have mountains.
Yeah, oh, right. No, your part of the country is way cooler. I consider you the West though, because it's west of me. And because there's the big expanse of nothing between me and you.
There's a
And
lot
that-
of box turtles in that nothing, okay?
There are, and there's a ton of windmills in central Kansas. Because I've driven across Kansas at night before, and it's freaky when every one of those little red lights blinks at once in unison, and you can see them for 70 miles. They go blink, and you see the red lights everywhere, and you think the aliens have come. But yeah, I mean, I want to do one in Denver. So I don't mean East Coast and West Coast and never do something like that. I actually just meant more like we need to, and if we do one that's in Denver or in Austin, then it may be the only one we need to do in the US in that given year, right? It just depends on what markets we go to. So it wasn't like always we need to be in Seattle and San Francisco, or we're going to be in Boston, DC. That's not the intent. The reason for saying we need a West Coast one, especially this year, was because we just tried to do the thing in Boston last fall, and it's a long way to go from San Francisco or Seattle to get to the East Coast. I mean, it takes as long to make that flight as it does to get from DC to London, like it's a long ways. And so that was the idea. It's not to like try to
Okay.
split the audience. And it was not to try to exclude places like Denver or Kaya's not as big of a fan of doing something in Salt Lake, but I'm a fan of doing something anywhere that there are mountains, because like I grew up with a second home in the mountains, and I'm a skier and like a mountain biker and a hiker. And I want to do that.
Okay, but like Salt Lake, there's like restaurants close really early. And
Oh no, yeah, I'd rather do Denver. I have also
Okay.
Denver. Don't worry. You don't have to sell it to me.
I'm pretty sure there aren't 24-hour like grocery stores.
That's
In-
probably
I'll look it up, but like we at least have some.
and you have King Super.
Yeah, we do have King Supers and they're great.
Yeah. I used to spend a good amount of my life in Eagle County. So like that's my that's like my
Do you guys
stomping
have Cane's where you are?
Have what?
Cane's Chicken?
Raising Canes?
Yeah,
Yes, we have Raising Canes.
they're so good.
You're still
I've
recording.
heard
Just as a
so.
reminder, Kaya, you're still recording.
I thought that's why I didn't say it. And I
Oh, is
typed,
the chat not recorded? Cool. Okay.
the chat
Um,
isn't recorded.
sweet.
We also have Voodoo Donuts. Is that a thing anywhere else?
It's not here, but I love Voodoo Donuts. And yeah, so I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat at Raising Cane's, but my wife does. She goes there all the time. And their fries and the dipping sauce is really good. I'll give it that.
The sauce is really good and the chicken's really well done. Like, and they're open every day of the week and they don't donate to horrible causes. And
Yep.
their mascot is a yellow lab and they're lovely.
Yep, she likes Raising Cane's a lot.
We also got an
That was
In-N-Out.
very,
We
that was very
we got
artfully and
In-N-Outs
tastefully done,
recently.
Lyra. Like really, really nicely done. Like very, very. It was
They're
perfect.
really good. Here's my pitch for like Denver. We have Raising Cane's, we have King Supers. We have some King Supers that are open 24 hours. We also have mountains and we have Voodoo Donuts. And there's these ice cream places. I think there's a couple of them. There's definitely one like nearish 16th Street that's called Frozen Matter. And they do like seasonal rotating ice cream flavors. And they're great. I really wish they would bring back, they had like an Earl Grey, like a lavender Earl Grey ice cream, and it was amazing. It was like having a London fog, but in ice cream
But ice
form.
cream. Yeah, that
And
sounds
it was
really good. Like really.
Perfect. I haven't seen them come back with it, but they also have a bunch of other really delicious ice cream flavors.
See, for years, my KCDC team has talked about starting a second conference, and like we want to do one in Colorado because there's really not a broad-based developer conference like ours out there.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be as big as KCDC, because then it has to be like at a convention center or somewhere in the DTC, which I don't really want to do. What I want is to run a more modestly scaled developer conference like in Evergreen. Like that's
Ooh.
what I really want to do, because then I can like in 5 minutes drive over to the Three Sisters and have a really nice morning hike. And like
True.
that's what I want, which is my
Also, there's
favorite
like
hike in
some
Colorado.
really good little cafes, and I can't remember what it's called right now. But there's like a really, really good one that like is almost always packed, and it's in Evergreen.
Yes. Yep, on Main Street, and then there's that grill right next door. I love that town
It's
so much.
my
Where do you
brain is
live? Like, where do you
unblinking.
actually live?
So like, do you know where Boulder is?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
do you
you're
know where
not close to Evergreen.
Do you know where Longmont is?
I do.
We live in Longmont.
There you go. So that's a
Yeah.
long ways from Evergreen.
It's doable. I've had to drive to Waterton before. I don't know if you've been to, there's a Lockheed Martin campus down there.
Yeah.
And I've had to drive there and be there at like, when we did badging, it was at like 7 a.m.
I have
Which- unpleasant, but like Evergreen is a doable drive, and we also have
And
I
you're,
like
you're close to Winter Park.
yeah, pretty close to Winter Park. Honestly, like driving anywhere from here is pretty okay because like we're really close to Highway 66.
Yeah.
So we can just like get on that and then like go out to I-25 or get on Highway 66 and go towards the mountains. Like either way is fine. We're pretty close to a lot of stuff, but we're far enough away that it's like quiet, and we have a driveway and a garage.
Right.
Lovely, because when we lived in Denver, we did not have a driveway. There was only street parking, and the garage barely fit like one car.
Yeah, my wife's aunt and uncle, the coolest people in her family by a fairly wide margin. They live in very far from you. They live in Highlands Ranch, like right off University, way on the south side of town.
We used to live at University, or like basically right across I-25 from DU.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah. So if you get off the 470 at University and go south into Highlands Ranch, and it's like the second turn into the community there, like before you go up
Uber
the
suburb.
Yeah, right. The Uber suburb. That's right. And so
it's really pretty down there. But
It's nice.
also we looked at houses at some point down, like just at pricing down there, and it was
yeah, right. It's
terrifying.
They I mean they do pretty well, but the house is really nice. It's a pretty area.
But if they've had the house for like several years, it would make sense because like it didn't used to be super expensive.
Yeah.
Like
That's-
even our house price, like since we bought it, has been like the price, like the appraisal value is bonkers.
Yeah. No, they like expatted from St. Louis like 20 years ago and never looked back. And they've been in
Oh,
that
yeah.
house since they moved. So
Highlands Ranch would have been way less developed. It's gotten a little bit more like they got a lot of stuff down there now.
they're right on the edge. So they're on the highway in 2.5 minutes, which is also really nice. Yeah.
We've got a lot of state parks. We've got a lot of several big off-leash dog areas.
She is still hard selling, like do an event here in Denver. You don't
Or
have
even
to-
Longmont. We've got a lot of dog parks in Longmont. We've got a lot
If I-
of
if I
walking
come-
trails.
If I come for DevOps Days Denver, how's the snow? Can I still ski or is it too late? Without having to go all the way to A Basin, where I'm sure there's snow at A Basin.
I mean, there was a pretty heavy fog and like it was really cold down here, like because we're not quite in the foothills.
Yeah.
We're like maybe 20-30 miles out from like the base of the foothills, but like we could see the cloud cover. And so I'm pretty sure like based on like forecast, it's dumping snow and
Sweet.
it's like snowing up in the mountains right now. So when is DevOps Days Denver?
It's not till late April. It's after the summit. It's like a month. It's the end of April. So season will still be open, but maybe
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if like Keystone still has stuff, but Keystone's like real.
Keystone's
The
right.
last time, and like it's like north facing, and so they have snow, but it's like I would never go back to Keystone, mostly because like when we were there, like unless you're there like early in the morning, as soon as it hits about noon, you're basically all in shadow on that side of the mountain, and it is scary. There's a lot of ice and it gets real sketchy real quick.
A lot of them are north facing though. Vale, Copper, they're all north facing. So I like grew up on Vale Mountain. So like
Okay, but like Loveland
I'm a bold.
area,
Oh yeah, sure. Right. And
like
it's so easy to get to.
southwest-ish facing, like really open runs, lots of powder, usually cheaper than the bigger ski areas. Beaver Creek wasn't horrible the last time I was up there, but it's harder to get to and more expensive.
I'm a bowl skier, so like I like Breck and I like Vale because I can ski the back.
Oh, Breck is gorgeous.
Breck is nice.
Breck should have snow still, like a significant amount by April. At least it has most years.
Everyone's like, what? I don't actually know why we're still on and why we're still recording because we've just been talking about skiing now for like the last 10 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's totally fine. We'll just cut this part when we post. See you, Jeff. Thanks, man.
Unless you want like skiing location recommendation.
Well, so I used to, I mean, I grew up on the slope, so I was like an expert skier, like, and crazy. Like I was one of these, jumping off of things kind of nuts when I was younger. I have not really skied since my kids were born because I was like, oh, there's a lot of activities I used to do. And then it was, I got old, I got fat, I had kids, and I couldn't really do the things that like carried with them any sort of reasonable chance of death when I had
Yeah.
young kids. Now my older one, who is very risk averse, we have a really silly, very small hill here in like St. Louis is right on the edge of the Ozark foothills, which aren't real mountains, but they're kind of mountains. Like there are hills and there is skiing. So like there's a ski place about 30 minutes from here that is not horrible. It's small, but like Vail Associates owns it now. And so they've done some nice things to it and the snowmaking capabilities are good. So I was gonna take him this winter, but it never happened. I guess it's not necessarily too late. They make all the snow anyway. But I'm gonna be in Seattle for the summit the week before DevOps Days Denver. So the trouble is if I go to the reason we may not do Denver from a sponsoring standpoint is like Raleigh Durham is like mid-April, like April 12th, 13th, something like that. And then the 19th and 20th, that week I have to be in Seattle for the Microsoft MVP Global Summit. And then like Denver is the week after that. And I don't necessarily want to travel 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That's exhausting for me and makes my family pretty unhappy. And Kaya doesn't necessarily want to do 2 in April either.
That makes sense.
So I'm trying to
I don't blame y'all. Like traveling, even just doing it once is exhausting.
So I used to, in the before times, I used to give like 25 talks a year. And so like in 2019, I think I was in Europe 6 times. So, and Australia once. Australia might've been late 2018. So it's a lot. Like I'm used to that, but I'm not used to it anymore.
Right.
And my kids are a little older, so they like actually notice and care when I leave and that sort of thing. So I'm not looking to start doing 2 conferences a month personally, but I would love to get to the point where we grow our team and like Chef can be at 1 to 2 conferences every month. It just doesn't have to be me or Kaya specifically at each
Right.
event. But right now
It
it
could
kind
be.
of does. And so it makes it harder.
Right.
Are you going to go to DevOps Days Denver? Is that a thing you would go to?
I would consider it if I knew that other people that I knew were going to be there.
Yeah.
With like maybe a couple of those like battery packs, like the thing, so I can charge my headphones and maybe extra earplugs.
Yeah, to go into introvert land when needed.
Yeah, well, to be able to survive being in extrovert land.
Right. I hear that.
And like several comfy hoodies.
Yeah, sure.
Like
That's how half the people who are at those events are, though, it's not like it's a whole bunch of extroverts. It's still a bunch of technologists who tend to be introverted, like
yeah,
socialized, but it's still crowded and people and it's noisy and in parts, and mealtime can be kind of hectic, breakfast, lunch, and all that. So, well, I don't know. If I'll let you know if there's a chance that anyone from Chef is going to go. I mean, Dave Leal lives there in Denver, but he needs more than just him to support an event if we're going to go. So like it also in part just depends, like I want to sponsor 2 in Q2 and it remains to be seen whether I can actually pull off Austin and RDU. And if I can't, then Denver becomes an appealing opportunity.
Raleigh is North Carolina?
It's capital of North Carolina.
Okay.
So but Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Cary, more so like those is all one big like mega metro area now. And well, has been for some time. So the Research Triangle, like Research Triangle Park. Corey, are you actually still here, or did you just like leave and forget to hang up? He might just be gone. That's actually kind of funny.
I'm here. I'm just kind of listening in the background.
Okay.
Meetings the rest of the day, so.
Right on. So like we have an office of sorts. We have some operations in an office in the Research Triangle area in Morrisville, which is west of Raleigh, south of Durham, like 15 minutes from the airport. so Mark Traster, who is the VP in charge of product marketing for Chef, he lives there. I went to Duke undergrad, so like that used to, so like I'm kind of in love with like Central North Carolina, even though it was 20 something years ago. And so I think it would be, and there's so much tech there, like right in that area.
Right.
Raleigh's not as big as Charlotte, but like the Raleigh-Durham like aggregate it is.
Mhm.
Also, Kaya lives in Charlotte, so it's only like a 2.5 hour drive, so she can get there pretty easily without even getting on a plane. So it just makes a lot of sense. I could probably get some FaceTime with people I need to see in person. It's a decent sized event, few hundred people, so it's a decent bang for my buck, you know, in terms of, since I have very limited budget I can spend on these things. What I'm going for right now is I don't have to go through corporate demand gen to sponsor
Right.
these events. I can just go to Ed, my boss, who's the VP of engineering, and say, I need something. So he's like allocated me not a huge amount of money, but like I have some where I can do some smaller sponsorships and get to things without having to go through the whole deal. I'm really enjoying the bird now. Like what?
Yeah, I'm listening, but I'm trying to figure out what she's doing.
What is she doing?
I don't know. She's like climbing down my shirt.
Okay. Well,
Can
you know,
can you come here, please? And not, I don't know what you're doing, bud.
had you had a bird before?
Yeah,
This is not the
I
first-
had a cockatiel for I think I got him when I was like 12, and then I moved out when I was like 18. So I had him for a good like 6-ish years, but my parents still have him.
Yeah.
And every request I made to have the bird
was to-
brought to Colorado was I was told, oh, it's too cold for birds in Colorado. And I'm like, literally, he would live inside. Like and if I take him outside, it's only going to be during the summer. What do you mean it's too cold for bird? And then finally, husband at Christmas time was like, well, for my
Listen.
birthday.
If I'm able to, I'm going to stop recording. This is silly.
Okay.